Hey, what up, guys? So, coming at you this morning with another mid-year top 10. We're getting into the top 3 divisions in boxing. Number 3 division in boxing for me right now is a 160-pound middleweight division. You know, a lot of big-name fighters in this division. Division is still very solid. Let's get into it. So, we look at first the outs, guys. The only one guy dropping out, and that is undefeated and former middleweight champion and now newly crowned WBO super middleweight champion, Billy Joe Saunders. Saunders made it official. He was moving up to 168 in May. And he dominated some little-known guy and ended up being for the vacant WBO title because the champion, Gilberto Ramirez, vacated that belt to move up to 175. So basically, they just switched places because Billy Joe did the same thing. There's no news on what Billy Joe is doing next. I think it all revolves around what Canelo's going to do next. I don't think Billy Joe is on Canelo's radar, to be honest. I don't think Canelo's going to consider him at all. You know, but whoever Canelo doesn't fight is going to be an option for Billy Joe. So, you know, I'm hoping to see that, but that's what Billy Joe Saunders is doing. All right, so let's get into the top 10 now at middleweight. Number 10, dropping one spot from number 9. Is former world title challenger Matt Korobov. Korobov returned from that controversial decision loss to Jermall Charlo back in December, where he was a replacement and fought really hard. And a lot of people didn't think it was the blowout that was scored. I think 2 judges gave him only 4 rounds, and the other judge gave him like only 2 rounds, and it was a lot closer than that. Some people even thought he won. You know, this one was, again, this is a really good fight. Well, Korobov, I'm sorry. He came back in May, and he took on some guy named Emmanuel Aleem and was pretty much outboxing the guy midway through. Aleem had some good moments and rocked Korobov a couple times. He closed the fight strong, but most people still felt Korobov should have won, and they scored it a draw. Excuse me. So, you know, because of other guys dropping out around him and stuff, and we did have a top 15 before, you know, I'm still keeping him here because of a strong performance against Charlo back in December. So for now, Korobov's holding on to that. Not sure what he's going to do next. I know he protested the draw, but I haven't heard anything come from that since. So we'll see what happens with him. See if somebody is willing to give him an opportunity, at least at an eliminator, because he is a good fighter. Next at number 9, he's moving up one spot from number 10, is former WBA regular champion Ryota Murata. Well, Murata made some big news that he's returning Friday, July 12th on ESPN, and he's going to challenge Rob Brandt for the WBA regular title in a rematch from their fight last October. Murata hasn't fought since then, since he lost the title. He got his ass whipped and dominated, losing a one-sided decision. You know, not sure how it's going to go. Personally, I'm picking Rob Brandt to beat him again. But I wouldn't be surprised if Murata pulled off the win here and got some revenge. So we'll see what happens. Going to be a good one Friday, July 12th on ESPN for the WBA regular middleweight title. So we'll see. Next at number 8, and he coming into the top 10, he was not ranked prior to this, and that is Sergey Derevyanchenko, the former world title challenger. Well, he bounced back from defeat last year at the hands of Danny Jacobs in October when he challenged for the vacant IBF title. He lost the decision. He fought hard. It ended up being a split decision. Personally, I didn't feel the fight was as close as they scored it, but he did fight hard in that fight against Jacobs. Well, he shook that off and bounced back in April. He got a final eliminator, and he beat Jack Kolke, who's a former junior middleweight champ. He outboxed him, outworked him to a hard-fought but deserving 12-round decision. The IBF immediately ordered him to face the IBF champion, which is Canelo, but the IBF said, even though he's the mandatory, that they would grant an exception to Canelo. So Canelo's next fight, as long as it's taking place at middleweight, he probably he's not going to face Derevyanchenko. Derevyanchenko's going to have to wait. But if Canelo decides to move up in weight, they're going to strip him of his title because Derevyanchenko needs to get his title shot at some point, and I believe the IBF will strip Canelo, and Derevyanchenko will fight for the vacant title before the end of the year. So we'll see what happens. He could end up getting a world title shot. He's not going to get Canelo, but he could end up competing for that vacant world title again. So we'll see. Next at number 7, moving up one spot from number 8, is the reigning WBA regular champion, Rob Brandt. And as I just announced, he's got a rematch with Ryota Murata on Friday, July 12th on ESPN. Big time fight right there for him. Can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be a good one. I think Brandt's going to beat him again, leave no doubt. He's an ESPN guy, so I'm not sure what that's going to do for him before the end of the year, because there's not a lot of top-ranked fighters at middleweight. But I think with everybody working together and being able to cross the street, I think Rob Brandt might get a decent fight before the end of the year. But prior to that, he's got to win this one against this guy, and I think he will. It should be a good one. Friday, July 12th, ESPN for the WBA regular middleweight title. Next at number 6, he previously was tied for 6, so he stays here, is former IBF middleweight champion David Lemieux. Still nothing on Lemieux and what he's planning on doing next. But it does... I mean, it's very likely it's going to be at middleweight. Personally, I think he's going to fight on the Canelo undercard, which would be a 1-year layoff for him. But injuries have kept him out of the ring, so I think he's just going to recover from those fully and come back at super middleweight. Haven't heard any talks about who he's going to face. His only ranking is actually number 3 at super middleweight at 168. So I fully believe Lemieux is going to make a full transition to that weight class before his next fight. So hopefully we hear something soon on that. Next at number 5, still number 5, is the undefeated WBO champion, Demetrius Andrade. You know, Andrade came back, fought for his second time just a couple days ago when he took on Maciej Sulecki. I thought the fight was going to be a little more competitive. I'm not surprised, but Andrade knocked him down in the first round and then just fully dominated him for 12 rounds to a one-sided unanimous decision. Now, impressive as that is, I don't think anybody's surprised by that, and I'm sorry, Andrade's calling out Canelo, but Canelo has so many other better options. I don't think he needs this fight unless Canelo wants to be declared the undisputed middleweight champion, which he technically gave up one of those belts to Charlo now. He doesn't have to take this fight. I mean, it's a high-risk, low-reward fight because Andrade is not a big name. Canelo's talking about has other options with bigger names and where it would be more prestigious, and he would accomplish more by moving up in weight and beating bigger names or fighting Triple G and beating him again. It would just mean more to his career than taking a risk against a guy like Andrade. And if he beats him, people aren't going to know him. They're going to be like, so what? So Andrade's calling him out. If he doesn't get him, I'd like to see him fight Triple G. I don't think Triple G's afraid to fight him. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I'd like to see him fight Triple G. If not Triple G, then I'd love to see him and Jaime Munguia fight before the end of the year. Munguia move up from 154. We'll see what happens. I mean, why not him and Rob Brandt? If Rob Brandt's still the champ, why not cross the street with each other and face each other? There's just a lot of options, and I'd like to see them. So we'll see what happens. Next at number 4 is the undefeated WBC champion, Jermall Charlo. He moves up one spot from being tied for 6th. I like Charlo. His win against Brandon Adams, he just technically dominated him. Got a one-sided unanimous decision. It was an impressive win. Not sure what he's going to do next, but he is now the full WBC champion because what's his name decided to vacate his belt. Well, technically, they named Canelo the franchise champion, which what the fuck does that mean? But they upgraded Charlo to full champ. So Charlo now got a nice win over Brandon Adams, one-sided decision. Nobody knows what he's doing next. I really would love to see him and Triple G get it on. Canelo's not going to fight him. I'd love to see Canelo fight him, but I don't think he's going to. But I'd love to see Triple G invite Charlo over and give him an opportunity. I think that'd be a good fight, but we just got to wait and see. I just hope he fights somebody good in his next fight. And I hope some of these guys are willing to cross the street and join promotions to fight each other if the top 2 guys, Canelo and Triple G, decide not to fight them. So we'll see. Next, and still number 3, is former 2-time champ Daniel Jacobs. No news on what he's doing next. Jacobs, he fought in May. He lost his IBF title to Canelo by, it was a somewhat close fight, but it was a convincing decision win for Canelo. Jacobs didn't really argue it. He did well. He just didn't win the fight is all it was, and he didn't do enough to win the fight. and he lost his belt. There was originally talks about him moving up to 168. I haven't really heard anything. I think Danny's going to take some time off. I think he'll be back before the end of the year. And I do believe he's probably going to move up to 168 because he's a big middleweight. So I think 168 would be better suited for him. And he probably would bring some of that power up because he does seem to struggle to make that weight. So we'll see what happens. But that's what I think he's going to do next. Next at number 2 is former unified champion Triple G Gennady Golovkin. Triple G came back June 8th in his first fight under the DAZN contract and destroyed Steve Rolls. Was a 4th-round knockout win. Rolls was a nobody. Everybody was like, so what? But what do you do against nobodies, guys? You destroy them. You roll right over them. Triple G has been fighting top-tier competition, top 10 guys, even when he didn't know them, even when he didn't know the guys that he was fighting. Triple G was fighting top 10 middleweights and walking right over them. So, you know what? I mean, I think he was due to face some nobody, some scrub, especially when the Canelo fight is right there if they decide, well, let's get into that. Triple G does not like the fact that they want to fight in Vegas again, and he's not down for that, so I don't think that fight's going to happen, to be honest with you. With Canelo, they're saying Canelo's leaning towards other options moving up in weight because Triple G won't agree to fight at the T-Mobile Arena again in Vegas. I think Triple G is wrong for this. I think it's a bad decision, career move, because, you know, he's taking a risk fighting somebody else when he could just have the fight with Canelo, and if he loses, so what? Canelo's not going to knock him out. There's no way of that. I doubt it. I think it's going to be another close fight, no matter what way it goes. And you're losing to the biggest name in boxing, so who cares, you know? I don't agree with him that Canelo gets Vegas decisions. Again, the first fight, Triple G gave away like 3 of the first 4 rounds, and then Canelo won the championship rounds. So that's at least 5 rounds right there that Canelo won. And at the very best, I said Triple G won 7-5. So how is that a rob job? 7-5? That's not a blowout. There's no robbery there. And then in a rematch, it was super tight again. They fought toe-to-toe. It was a great fight, and Canelo pushed the action. Triple G, I mean, what are you going to do, man? Throw more body shots if you're going to bitch and moan. Because in both fights, he didn't throw any. So I really think he's making a mistake not signing on and fighting at the T-Mobile Arena for a 3rd fight with Canelo. But that's on him, man. Hopefully he figures that out. I don't think the fight's going to happen, but I really hope it still does for September. And then finally, still number 1. Oh, stay with Triple G for a second. He is not afraid, in my opinion, to face Demetrius Andrade. Is that fight worth it is the question. You know, Chris Mannix, the guy on DAZN, really pissed me off because he said Triple G does not like fighting guys that move. Well, first off, who does like fighting guys that move? Nobody does. And secondly, who has he struggled with guys that move? Danny Jacobs? Danny Jacobs was way bigger than Triple G. He didn't even fight for the IBF title that night because he didn't want to stay within the 10-pound radius of the IBF championship that they call for the next day weight. So Danny came in over 180 pounds into the fight with Triple G when they fought. And it was a close fight and Triple G still won. There really wasn't any arguments there. So how can this guy Mannix say that that's the only case of a guy giving him trouble and going to the distance with him? Triple G has smashed everybody else. You know, so how does he not like guys that fucking move? It was just a dumb statement. I don't think Triple G's afraid to fight him. Is that his best option is what Triple G's going to look at? And I don't think it is. I think Triple G should fight Jamal Charlo if him and Canelo don't do the 3rd fight. He's undefeated. He's a better style matchup, and he's got a bigger name than Andrade. And he's got the WBC belt, which is the more recognizable belt. That's what I think they should do next. And Charlo wants to fight. So I think that makes way more sense for Triple G. So, you know, this whole shit that Andrade's talking and everybody's talking, that's just talk. You know, he is not deserving yet. And, you know, he hasn't really beaten anybody big, Andrade. So Triple G does not need to recognize him and fight him next. But we'll see what happens. And then finally we get it. Still number 1 is the unified middleweight champion of the world, Canelo Alvarez. He gave up the full WBC title. He's now the WBC franchise champion, whatever the fuck that means. And, you know, right now that, again, the Triple G 3rd fight seems to be falling through because Triple G doesn't want to sign on and fight at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. Canelo wants to, they're leaning towards a fight with Sergey Kovalev at light heavyweight. I'm sure it's going to have some kind of catch weight to it, but man, that's big. If not that, they're saying Callum Smith at 168 is the second best option. So I think either one of those is high risk, but it's big reward for Canelo. Way bigger than if he were to fight Andre. Especially the undisputed title wouldn't even be legit now because Charlo has a WBC belt. So why would Canelo do that? I think the only way he stays at middleweight for his next fight is against Triple G in a third one. If not, I definitely think they're going to work out a deal with either Kovalev or Callum Smith for September. So I'm hoping that comes soon and we find out what's going to go on. Canelo, a lot of options, and he's willing to challenge and take those risks, and I love it. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the middleweight division. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.